Hello, everyone. This is Indrup, and today I'm going to cover another graph, which is not very difficult per se, but it can be solved in an easier manner. If you learn how to attempt it, you'll write a better graph than you can. So it's a 7.5 to 8 man strategy, and just go through it. It will not take more than 10 minutes of your time. And I'm giving a question. You can write that at the end and you can submit it as a homework. I'll upload the link or you can email me. I'll give my email ID. You can email me and submit it to my email and I'll check and give a feedback also on the graph. Okay, so let's begin. So the graph is like that, like this. Um, the first part is not the complicated part. There are two graphs in this. The second part is a bit complicated, if I would say. There are two lines here, if you can see. One is denoting the percentage of trains, this one, and the second one is the target. So let's read the question and understand what the two things are. What is the percentage of trains and what is the target? So if you read, it says the graphs below show the number of train passengers and the percentage of trains running on time. So this percentage of trains is actually the number of trains or the percentage which were running on time. For example, in this case, in the year 1995, 91% of the trains were running on time, approximately 9% were late, you can say. Okay. But a target was set set at around 93, or you can imagine it to be 94%. So the company or the government wanted 94% of the trains to be on time, but actually 91% of the trains were on time. And this data has been given from 1995 to 2004. And you have to address that. So sometimes students end up giving trends for the target. You can't give trends for the target because the target is not something that is happening automatically. It is set. You can mention the trend for the percentage of trains running on time, but not for the target. So there are some mistakes that students do make when writing this graph. So I'll cover how to attempt it. And then there's an additional graph. This one is a bit complicated. The additional one is not that tough. It's the number of train passengers. What happened to it? Like, for example, you can see in this year, it's this much and then increased and then this much. So you can see the figure. So let's see how to attempt it. Okay. So introduction, the line graph illustrates the total number of train passengers, the actual percentage of trains running on time, and the target set in Sydney from 1995 to 2004. So for me, the introduction is really easy. I just mentioned the three things that are being mentioned in the graph, which are the total number of train passengers, the actual percentage of trains running on time, and the target set in Sydney. I will not say the target set by the government or the company because it's not mentioned. And remember, in graphs, we cannot add information on our own. Okay, so let's go with the overview. We are going to mention two features. The feature from the first graph is going to be really easy. For example, it's number of train passengers. You're just going to mention the trend. The trend, if you can see, it starts at 250 and it ends at 280. So the trend is increasing. So the number of train passengers increased over the period. Okay. You'll also mention the trend for the percentage of trains running on time. So if you look at that in the first year, the percentage of trains running on time was how much? 91%. It fluctuated, but by the end of the period, it was 72%, if you look at it. So we'll call it a decreasing trend. So the number of percentage of trains running on time decreased, whereas the number of train passengers increased. So these are the true trends that you can get. Remember, we will not mention a trend for the target. We'll not mention it because it's not a trend. It's being set. So it's not stable. It didn't remain stable. It was set at that much. The government could have increased it. The government or the company could have increased it. Whatever, if they wanted. Okay. Let's come to the next part. So we'll write this feature. Overall, it is clear while the number of train passengers rose, the actual percentage of trains running on time fell over the given period. See, these are trends, but I hate using the word trend. I think it makes the sentence complicated. So I like to write it really simple. This increased, this decreased, and I'm using a contrast word, which is while. While could also be used in the middle of the sentence. but using it at the beginning shows that you are an expert at its usage. You're more comfortable because even in the beginning, it's showing a contrast. It can be used in this sense. Now let's come to the second feature. In the second feature, we are going to mention how many times the target was met. So if you look at it here, we met the target. This is the percentage of trains running on time. This year, the target was met, 1999. And then the target was again met in 2002. So that's what we are going to mention. For example, in this case, the target was met twice, once in this year and the second time in this year. In addition, the target was met only twice. So I'm writing it. This is what I was thinking. In addition, the target was met only twice during the whole period, once in this year and secondly in this year. So that's what I'm going to mention as my second feature. So overall, it is clear while the number of train passengers rose and the actual percentage of trains running on time fell. In addition, this would be my first feature. In addition, the target was met only twice during the whole period, once in this year and secondly in 2002. So that's how I'm going to address my overview. I always tend to mention two features in the overview, and a lot of students write one. And I really believe if you want to score 7 and 7+ bands, you should develop a habit of writing at least two features. So these would be the two features I would address. One from this graph, and the second from one from this and this graph combine the trends, and the second one about the target. Okay, now let's talk about the body paragraphs. The first paragraph, I'll keep it really simple. The first paragraph will be about the first chart, the second paragraph for the second chart. No complications. And I know the first paragraph will be shorter, but I'm not making a perfectly, uniform paragraph in paragraph one. I don't want it to appear the same. Even when you do readings, think about it. Are all the passages the same length? No, they are not. So how can we attempt something in the same length? If I want to talk about the second paragraph starts when I'm done talking about the train passengers. The first paragraph is going to talk about this. The second paragraph is about percentage of trains running on time. I don't want to mix them up. There's no sense writing them together. So two paragraphs doesn't matter. One will be a bit shorter, one will be a bit lengthier. In detail, the number of passengers started at this much, if you can see, in 1995, which increased and peaked at 300 million in 2001. So this increased and reached 300 million in 2001. Please do develop a habit of writing the units. I know some of you don't pay attention. Sometimes you write percentages. Please pay attention. It's really important. However, now this is a really important word and you need to focus on it because till now it was increasing and now it's starting to decrease. So I have to write this word, however. In the next year, because if you look at it, it just fell for 1 year. In the next year, so till 2001, it's increasing. From 2001 to 2002, it's decreasing. So in the next year, it fell by 20 million. 300 minus 280, if you look at it, it amounts to 20 million. So I'll write that. Finally, from 2002 to 2004, the number remained unchanged at 280 million. So that's how I would write this paragraph. I don't like changing words. Like I don't like the word count of passengers. They look really, I would not use that word. It just doesn't suit well. So I would just stick with the word number. Even if it's repeated, don't make a big fuss about it. It doesn't matter that much. In fact, using a wrong word would hurt you more. So my advice, stick with the same word. Okay, let's come to the second BP now. In the second body paragraph, what we are going to mention is the first thing will finish the target. We'll just make 1 or 2 sentences for the target. So I'll start with this with regards to the trains running on time, because in this paragraph, we are talking about the trains which were running on time. A target of 94% was set for the whole period from 1995 to 2004. So this was the target set, 94%. Then we are going to follow it up with the trend about the actual percentage of trains running on time. So if you look at the trend, I'll probably say till about 2003, it varied or it fluctuated between these two figures. At the top, it was 94%. At the bottom, it was 85%. So it fluctuated between 85% and 94% during this period from 1995 to 2003. After 2003, it fell. If you can see, it sharply fell after 2003. So we are going to mention something like that. So from 1995 to 2003 that it fluctuated. And then after 2003, it fell sharply. And in 2004, I'll give the data. Okay. And at the end, I'll also mention again the number of times the target was met. I know I've mentioned it in the overall, but I would mention it as a part of the body paragraph as well. So let's see. In 1995, the actual percentage of trains which ran on time was this much, which was only 2% less than the target. So in this year, it was around 92%. It was only 2% less than the target. The percentage fluctuated between 85% and 94% till 2003. So if you look at it here, it's fluctuating between 85%. At the bottom, it's 85. And at the top, it is 94. It's fluctuating between these two numbers from 1995 to 2003. So I wrote that till 2003. But after that, it plummeted. Plummeted is a good vocabulary word. It means fell sharply. So instead of writing fell sharply, you're using one word, which means plummeted, which means to like fall very, very considerably sharply. So it plummeted to this much in 2004. During the entire period, the target was met only twice, once in this year and then again in 2002. So during this entire period, the target was met only twice, once in this year and this year. If you look at my overall graph, it would it will look something like this. So if you look at it, the third BP, the first BP, it's not much different in length from the second BP. It's a bit shorter, but it's fine. We cannot have it in the same length. And the overview is something where I differ from a lot of people. A lot of people say it has to be really short. It doesn't have to be really short. I find this graph would fetch you about 7.5 to 8 bands. I'm not promising 9 bands or 8.5 bands because I could have used more vocabulary, but I want to keep things simple and doable in the exam. So exam pressure is there. I teach you complicated things. You will not be able to do that. We have to attempt it in a simple way that is possible to do in the graph. So first perfect this. If you want to move ahead, we can talk about things moving ahead once you're perfect in this. So now I'm going to show you the homework that you can do. Anyone can do. I don't care if you're not a student or not joined with us. You can attempt this graph. I'll open this graph for you here. You can just do it by pausing the video and you can just attempt it. So the graphs below show the actual, the question, I'm reading the question. The graphs below show the actual percentage of buses arriving on time and the target set by the bus company. Here it's mentioned who's setting the target. It's the bus company. It's not in the form of a line graph, but it's nearly the same way. So 1990, 83% buses. This is the actual percentage. These are the buses which arrived on time, but the target set by the bus company was 84%. Then you look here, 82% actual, the target set 84%. In fact, afterwards, the target set is the same. And if you look at it, the target was achieved only once in 2002. And it exceeded the target actually. The actual percentage was more than the target. You can mention that. The second graph is about the number of complaints. Again, it's not in the form of a line graph, but it's a line graph if you look at it. It has years. You can attempt it in the same way. You'll first mention it increased till here, then decreased, then increased again. So that's probably how I would do it, end up doing it. So you can look at it. I'll show this graph first, and then you can look at the second graph. And if you want to attempt it, I can show you all of the graph in one page. So you can try and attempt it and you can submit the homework. You can WhatsApp me the task. I will not check it if it's, I'll just mention two things. First of all, I would require a whole 24-hour period for checking. So, I will not check it after 24 hours of uploading the video. So I'm giving you a time limit because I also need to do other things. So this is the time limit. You can finish. I'm offering the service free of cost for everyone. Anyone who wants to get a feedback on how they write it, it's okay. I'll do it. The second thing is I would want it to be written in the same pattern. So if you're writing any other pattern, then you're not learning from me. If you want to check your patterns, then like I don't mind checking, but what's the point? You're not learning. I'm teaching you a difficult graph. So try to cover it. If you write something better, but if you're not following the pattern, I would say it's better that you get it checked from someone else that you follow. So What I'm offering is written according to this pattern. If you write it according to this pattern, I'll try to check it. Okay. And I'll give a 1 day deadline. So I'm uploading it today on the 15th. So you can submit it till 15th night 24 or till 16th morning you can submit. And I'll give the feedback by the end of day on the 16th. So the phone number, I'll mention my phone number here. You can send the graph. You can take a WhatsApp picture. It has to be a very clear picture. And then you can upload it at this number. Like you can send me a WhatsApp with your written answer, the whole answer, and I'll check it. So that's it. Thank you for listening and hope you have a wonderful week.